I don't always work like this, but this is the second image I've done of this subject. And it's really about a time when I was a child I spent in the south of France, and I was staying with a French couple, very wealthy, and I think I was about 11 or something. Anyway, I stayed in this really massive house, and they gave me this bathroom, and it was bright yellow like this, and it had the most enormous bath in it. The only reason it wasn't as intimidating as it could have been was because of this yellow brightness and the sun. And that's what it's about. And then I've had this struggle with this figure which has not been right. And I found this leaning figure which kind of seems to speak to me, which is kind of me, and it kind of isn't as well. All the figures in my paintings are sort of me, or at least my experience. But they're an amalgamation of women that I know, or my daughters, or myself as a child at different times. So they're not one specific figure or one specific time, I think. And it's like the emotions or the feelings dripping down, so I'm sort of encouraging them there. I was trained as a printmaker, and printmaking is often about layers, and I think that comes through in how I think about stuff, how I think about my work, physically and psychologically. It's kind of layered. People often say, oh God, there's a lot going on, isn't there, in a kind of fearful way. I kind of observe that response in people. They're often a bit alarmed. I think they think perhaps there's a psychopath under there. People often say to me, I can't believe it's you that's making these paintings, because I suppose I don't look too scary outwardly. And then they come across these paintings and they can sense that there's a lot going on underneath. This is much more of a battle than I normally have with a piece, even more than I would normally have.
It smells nice though, doesn't it?
It smells really nice. And it also reminded me of stories of people in mental institutions or nuns or something who bathed with their clothes on out of modesty. And I think this woman who I was staying with, she kind of wanted to take over as my mother for a few months. So she was quite intrusive, and I felt very observed. My mother has always been afraid of what is really behind each of the images, and concerned about how that might reflect on her, I think. I recently had somebody insist to me 3 times that what I was doing was a hobby, and I had to keep correcting them and say, no, it's my work. So being filmed is an odd experience.
Yeah.
It's quite, it's like being under the microscope, a little bit like an insect under the microscope.
And you were saying, do you think the painting that I've been filming you working on has the fact of the filming has changed the work in some way? Or?
Oh, that's interesting. I think it's probably changed it in that I probably wouldn't have moved it on as fast. So you've kind of forced me to get on with it, which has been a good thing, because I've really struggled with that painting. I think it enabled me to step outside, which is one of the things about pushing yourself into an uncomfortable situation. So whilst I was saying earlier, I feel like an insect under the microscope, which is obviously not ideal. It is a way. It was allowing you to make the film of the studio. It was a way of taking myself outside my comfort zone, which I think you need to do regularly, because otherwise it gets stale, doesn't it? Life in general. So yeah, it's been good in that sense, and stimulating. It's always good to have somebody into the studio. And a lot of people don't get it. They can't.
Well, it's a privilege to be here at all, really.
Wow.
Because it's your Sure.